Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, morimuli wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jed Lee, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show. And please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, Stitcher Radio, Ghana, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Dr. Donna Housman. She is here to celebrate her ECSELEnt Adventures series. Before we invite Dr. Donna into the studio, we want to invite you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. So much going on there. If you are a parent, you absolutely want to click the Parents Click Here button at the top of the page. Check out our blog. It features some amazing author profiles. It also features some great reviews. In fact, all the full reviews of all our certified great reads. If you are an author, you absolutely want to click on the Authors Click Here button to find out how you can be a guest here in the podcast, to find out how you can submit your book to our certified great read panel, and also find out how you can take part in our monthly promotion program. And, of course, we want you to click the Drawing with Your Kids button to discover all the amazing video drawing lessons that some of the best illustrators in Kid Lit have posted for you. We have Nick Ullo, we have Lauren Castillo, we have Brian Lees, we have David Ezra Stein. So many more guests are coming on. You and your kids are going to love it. You can find it all at readingwithyourkids.com. Join us right now from not too far from our studios in Reedville. Our guest is here today to celebrate her ECSELEnt Adventures series, 2 books in the series, Gilly in the Garden and Theo's Deliciously Different Dumplings. Please welcome to the show Dr. Donna Housman. Dr. Donna, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you on. Let's jump right into it. Tell us all about Gilly in the Garden, please.
Okay, well, these books are part of a series that really help children deal with some very challenging events as well as their big emotions, and which is really important since, all children are born with emotion as their first language, but not born with the skills to really know how to deal with and manage their emotions. So in developing the ECSELEnt Adventure series, the goal was to really help children through relatable characters really begin to understand the big world of emotions, both of their own emotions as well as the emotions of others. So in Gilly in the Garden, that was the first book that I've recently written that really looks at issues around loss and death through relatable characters. And the ambassadors of ECSELEnt Adventures are Hemmy and Shemmy, who are otters and their siblings. And they take children on adventures to really help them begin to understand more and discover more about their own emotions, how to understand them, and the emotions, as I said a moment ago, of those of others. And through this process in Gilly in the Garden, Hemmy and Shemmy start out as really loving to take care of their garden, and they're really good at it. And they feel at the time they really want to take really good care of something more. And so they end up getting a beloved pet, and the beloved pet is Gilly. And through the course of taking care of Gilly and all the excitement and the ways that they're taking care of Gilly, the unexpected happens, and Gilly ends up dying. And the book really helps children begin to understand the big emotions when dealing with loss of something that they really love, and how to begin to deal with those big emotions, and also be able to understand the emotions of others that are experiencing similar kinds of things. And the book also not only looks at the children in terms of what they're dealing with, but it really helps parents and educators help children in supporting and guiding them through these challenging events and really how to begin to deal with these big emotions. And
I'm really delighted that you have this book. Growing up not too far from where you are right now, we never dealt with loss. There was, the very first wake and funeral that I attended was when I was 16 years old. My grandfather passed. We had pets who passed away. None of our pets passed away. They went to live on a farm somewhere. So it just wasn't talked about. And I don't think that that's very healthy.
Right. And I agree with you. And, talking about emotions with young children typically have been more challenging for most adults. And yet at the same time, when you do start to give children permission to share their emotions and to respond to them, and, allowing children to begin to talk about what it's like to feel sad or angry and what to do with these emotions. Because what's really important for children is to understand all emotions are fine. The prickly feelings as well as the cozy feelings. But what really is most important is what we do with these emotions. And that is the goal in helping children. For example, Jed, as you're talking about as a child, you never really talked about loss or death, or the adults in your world never really, talked about it with you. And it is not an uncommon situation for children, and yet so important in helping them in terms of their sense of self, in terms of their own emotional well-being. And feeling really confident and competent in knowing how to deal with these emotions, which is just a part of all of our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I know, looking back, my parents, their friends, the parents of my peers, the thought was, well, we're going to shield our kids from these emotions because they can't handle it. They can't handle these conversations. As I'm looking back, I have a feeling that it was the parents shielding themselves, because it's like, I really don't want to talk to my kids about this because I don't know how to handle it myself.
Exactly. And that is why, part of the books that I've been writing really helps and supports the parent in understanding about the various topics that may be getting addressed in each of the books, and tips in terms of how to help the child begin to deal with these, challenging events, and also how to help themselves, the parent, become aware of their own emotions and how to deal with them so that they can guide and support children and giving permission to children in having these emotions, because whether they talk about them or not, children have them.
Yeah.
And so it's up to the adult to be able to help support the child in being able to learn how to understand them as well as deal and manage with them.
Yeah. Really, really important. I want to talk a little bit about your background. You're not a doctor of music or anything like that. You're a psychologist. You're there in the front lines helping kids and parents deal with these kind of emotions every day.
Yes, exactly. And it is something that, again, is so important because that's how people connect and communicate. Emotions is part of our life in everything that we do, in how we relate, in how we think, behave, and also there's a real direct connection between our emotions and learning. So the more we help children begin to understand and manage their emotions, then all of that energy becomes freed up for them to focus, attend, learn. And today more than ever, the areas and issues that children are struggling with have to do with their emotions, their mental health, and learning. And we really need to be able to provide children with the tools so that they can deal with these big emotions, with the emotions of others. So they're developing empathy and compassion and kindness, which is something we need more than ever today, as well as being available so that they can really absorb information coming in, grasping new concepts, and really getting excited about learning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I heard that happened during the pandemic when kids started to go back to school is that they had a hard time relating to each other and to the teachers because they were masked. And the masking, while it might have been preventing the spread of COVID, it was interfering with the kids being able to read the emotions of their peers and their teachers. Is that something that you heard about or felt kids experienced?
Yes. When we are cueing into emotions, obviously the face is very important for us to kind of develop understanding of what is being felt in terms of the mouth, the eyes. The eyes are really important so that when we talk about masks, the mouth is covered, but the eyes still remain very expressive. So that, what has been happening, because it is true that children have returned with, having challenging times in dealing with one another in terms of managing their behavior. There are a lot of big emotions they're carrying around in their backpacks as they have re-entered into school. And so what is really important is being able to recognize that so that we can help them begin to express it, because part of these emotions have developed because of disruption in their lives over the last several years. The isolation, the lack of social networking and support that is so important in helping children connect and relate and know appropriate ways of engaging. So it's not just about the masks. And there was an interesting study, a brief study that was done during COVID around masks with babies, because we know that children respond to the responsiveness of the adult. And if the adult isn't really being responsive in a caring, empathic way, the children and the child feels that. So what this brief study did was it had the parent put the mask on to see what would happen when the parent was still engaging, although with the mask, versus shutting down. Mm-hmm. And what it showed is that as long as the body language of the adult was still engaged and responsive, the child was engaging back. But when the person with the mask on or without stopped that engagement, then the child became very frustrated and anxious. So the mask in and of itself was not the challenge or the problem for the child. It was the engagement, the responsiveness of the adult in cueing into the child and being able to respond to that child's needs.
You bring up an interesting point. One of the things I hear, especially around older kids in middle school, kids in high school, kids who are communicating, maybe the vast majority of their communication is happening via text, where there's no physical response and no... do you think that might be contributing to the increase in anxiety and mental health issues that those kids are experiencing?
Yes, technology has its really good points and its not so very good points. And anything taken to an extreme is not really helpful. So that when children are primarily engaging through text, as you bring up, it doesn't allow for them to engage and see the person and pick up the energy and respond to the cues in terms of the face, the body language, the intonation in one's voice. And so it's really just about words and not really being able to engage and interact, which is so important in one's development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Boy, it's, my kids are now adults. They're 27 and 29, and I think it would have been so much different trying to raise them now if they were teenagers now. I mean, it was very challenging raising teenagers and going through middle school as it was, but I think even now it would be even more challenging.
Yes. Times are different from when we were younger in terms of growing up. And these are challenges that really need to be addressed and be sensitive to the kids, too, that are struggling and dealing with this, because they need the support and skills of being able to engage more authentically and genuinely with one another, and know how to respond when there is a disruption, and respond in a helpful and healthy way. And that's part of what these books do, is that when someone is feeling, as I had mentioned earlier, a prickly feeling, which is a negative feeling, if they're really frustrated or angry, there are ways to be able to express it in appropriate, constructive means, and be able to then come to resolution so that you can solve the issue or the problem and continue to move on, and not let that emotion prevent you or stop you in your tracks from being able to resolve the issue or problem at hand so that you can continue to move forward.
Yeah. Well, let's move forward and talk a little bit about Theo's Deliciously Different Dumplings, because dumplings are one of my favorite things in the world.
Yes, that book, Theo's Deliciously Different Dumplings, is about diversity and acceptance. And in the book, Theo comes to school on the first day with dumplings as his lunch. And he's made fun of because nobody at school recognizes that or is familiar with it. And so he's made fun of, and he is also being bullied. And as the story unfolds, the children begin to learn to talk about differences between and among one another, and also the uniqueness of who they are in terms of their differences, because differences are not just, about oneself and someone that you're not familiar with. They're differences within and among people within a family. And so children beginning to learn about their own uniqueness and how they're different is very important, so that they can begin to empathize with others, and also be able to understand that differences are a part of life. And the one thing that is similar, that really is a thread that brings people together, is that we all have emotions. And so understanding that is being able to also understand that that is something that unites us. And things that may be unique about us should also be understood so it can be celebrated and embraced. And this is really an important goal for children at an early age to begin to understand. And when they begin to understand that from the beginning, for example, if they had a box of crayons and they were all the same color, what kind of interesting drawings could they make if every single crayon was the same color versus a diversity of color? And so I think it's really important at an early age to be able to expose children to understand about some of these issues. And in Theo, that is the issue that is being addressed, is the one of diversity and inclusivity and acceptance. And being able to help children also understand about bullying at a young age, and that bullying and lack of empathy takes a real toll on children's well-being and mental health. And we need to be sensitive and understand that so we can help children begin to embrace that, understand it, and embrace it, and be able to continue to move forward.
Yeah. My kids were part of a bicultural family, and so they had that diversity. But we wanted, my beautiful wife and I wanted our kids to understand that there were even more cultures just outside of our family. So we did wonderful things. For example, we joined part of the friendship circle at Show University, which is not too far away from where you are. And, spending time with students from Japan, and then hosting international kids in our home. What other kind of things, other than reading a book like Theo's Deliciously Different Dumplings, can we do as a family to kind of celebrate diversity and help our kids understand that we are different, and our differences are wonderful and make us special, but we do all share that common bond of emotions and love, and that we are all part of one human family.
There are so many things that can be, children can be exposed to, different cultures, different customs, through movies, through books, being able through games, really being able to take them, to museums, places that expose and express a variety of different types of cultures, and different ways of living, different ways of celebrating, certain customs, all ways of being able to expose children. And it's not just through literature, but literature is really important. But also having parents within the home talk about these things. When something may come up, to be able to be really open and expose their children to different ways of thinking about things. To be able to be talking about that, within the family from an early age, about how, one person may have red hair, one person may have brown hair, different color eyes, different interests, all of these things, what makes them unique and special, and to be able to embrace that. And when it is not spoken about and it is not understood, oftentimes people become afraid of something that is unfamiliar, mm-hmm. or not understood. And we want to prevent that from happening by really being very open, sharing information, being responsive to children's questions. And then when we notice something being said or shared that is maybe inappropriate, to be able to share that with the child and explain why that may be. Mm-hmm. And so not leaving the child alone with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that reading books like this are a fantastic way for families to start talking about with our kids' emotions and giving them the skills and the tools to help them handle their emotions. But there are kids out there who need a little extra help. They need somebody like you to kind of come in and work with them. What kind of signs, things should parents be aware of that might be an indication that maybe my kid needs to sit down and maybe we need to spend some time with a professional to help them deal with their emotions better?
Oh, well, when you're talking about young children, usually children express their emotions in action, mm-hmm. in behavior. So we really want to be observant about our children's behavior. And if we're seeing a child, become really dysregulated often, and they're not able to be comforted, or they're really removing themselves, they're isolating themselves, they're not showing any kind of interest or enthusiasm over extended periods of time, because we all have that periodically, mm-hmm. but when it's over an extended period of time, let's say many, many weeks or a month, then we need to start to kind of wonder what is really going on for our child, and really begin to talk also with our child and engage with them and say, we're noticing that you seem sad, or we're noticing that you're seeming really angry. Can you help us understand what is making you angry, or what is making you feel sad, versus why? Because oftentimes people don't know why. Even adults don't know why oftentimes. But when you become more detailed and more concrete, and you say, what is making you feel this way? A child may be more apt to respond than saying, why are you feeling this way? And oftentimes a child may experience that why is being more kind of negative or frustrated with them, versus really wanting to understand and help them with their emotions. The other thing is that, given what you were talking about, adults may not know how to respond to children, one of the things that we do is that we're helping educators and parents begin to understand about children's emotions, but also their own, because children develop in the context of relationships. So it's really important that the adult become really aware of their own emotions, their own emotionality, and be able to deal with it in appropriate ways so that they can guide and support and respond to the child in more appropriate ways and helping them develop these skills as well.
Yeah. So important. I love that suggestion. Ask your kid what is making them feel a certain way instead of why are you feeling that way. Just as you said that, it's like, duh. That's genius. But that's why you're a doctor and I'm not. We need to know where we can go to find out more about the ECSELent Adventures series.
Please, you can visit our website at housmaninstitute.org, and there will be information about the books on the website, as well as other information in terms of being able to help one deal with their emotions, educators, parents, in helping themselves as well as the children that they're working with.
Yeah, I guess that's important. We can't be flying off the handle and expecting our kids to be chill.
Well, that's right, because children learn through observation, imitation, and how we guide, model, and respond to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've had a really fascinating time speaking to the author of Gilly and the Garden and also Theo's Deliciously Different Dumplings, 2 books that are part of our guest's ECSELent Adventures series, and our guest has been Dr. Donna Housman. Dr. Donna, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Please be sure to join us for next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Brett Hofstadt. He'll be here to celebrate Goodnight Moonbase and some other great STEM-based books for kids. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our guest, Dr. Donna Housman. Please be sure to check out her ECSELent Adventures series. Also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Jordan Saley, Stephanie Davila, Will Cheever, Cassandra Masonet, Sabrina Wu. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.